Hello, my dear friends, and welcome back to our channel, Mysterious Untold Books. Introduction. The alarm pierced the darkness at 5 a.m., and Sarah groaned, reaching to silence it. For the 10th morning in a row, she'd set this ambitious wake-up time, and for the 10th morning, she was about to hit snooze. But today, something stopped her hand mid-air. The words from that book she'd been reading echoed in her mind. Own your morning, elevate your life. With a deep breath, she swung her feet to the floor instead. That single decision, that tiny victory against her comfort, would ultimately transform everything. This is the power of the 5 a.m. Club, a revolutionary approach to morning routines that has transformed the lives of countless high achievers across the globe. It's not merely about waking up early. It's about reclaiming the most precious hours of your day before the world's distractions begin their assault on your attention. Through compelling stories and practical frameworks, this book reveals how the simple act of rising before dawn creates a domino effect of positive change. You'll discover how the world's most successful people structure their mornings, why willpower is a muscle that can be strengthened, and how small, daily improvements compound into extraordinary results. Whether you are struggling with productivity, seeking greater meaning, or simply wanting to break free from mediocrity, these pages hold a blueprint for your awakening. One daughter crisis at midnight, the entrepreneur's turning point. The sleek high-rise apartment that had once felt like a trophy now seemed like a prison to Elena. At 38, she had built a technology empire from a dorm room idea to a household name. Industry magazines had celebrated her as a titan, a leader, a philanthropist. Yet tonight, as the clock struck midnight, she sat alone at her kitchen counter contemplating how to end it all. A gun would be due violent, she thought. A noose would be due ancient. A knife blade to the wrist would be due silent. The question had consumed her for hours. How to end a once glorious life swiftly and precisely, with minimum as yet maximum impact? Just 1 year ago, circumstances had been dramatically different. But now she faced a cruel and jealousy-fueled coup from investors who wanted to dilute her ownership stake in the very business she'd invested most of her life building. The betrayal felt unbearable. As tears streamed down her face, Elena's gaze fell upon a ticket her mother had given her, a personal optimization conference featuring someone called the Spellbinder. She usually laughed at such events, calling attendees broken-winged and dismissing their gurus as charlatans. But tonight, with options dwindling, she saw a glimmer of possibility. Either this seminar would provide some breakthrough to save her life, or she'd find her peace another way. The next morning, Elena slipped into the back row of the conference hall just as the Spellbinder took the stage. Life's due sure to play small with your talents. His voice resonated through the room. You've been built to achieve masterwork-level projects, designed to realize unusually important pursuits, and constructed to be a force for good on this tiny planet. Something in his words pierced through her despair. As he spoke of reclaiming sovereignty over one's greatness in an uncivilized civilization, about escaping cyber-zombie status and restructuring life to model mastery, Elena felt a lawn doorman spark reignite within her. When the Spellbinder suddenly collapsed on stage mid-speech, the chaos that followed introduced Elena to the people who would change her life, a passionate artist and mysterious homeless man with an inexplicably expensive watch. This unlikely trio would soon embark on a journey that would not only save Elena from her darkest moment but transform her understanding of success, leadership, and what it truly means to live an exceptional life. In our most desperate hours, the universe often conspires to bring us exactly what we need, not what we think we want. Elena's crisis became the doorway to her transformation, proving that sometimes we must reach the edge of our existence before we can discover the extraordinary life awaiting on the other side. To dot the Spellbinder's wisdom, awakening the hero within. The conference hall fell silent as the Spellbinder took the stage. Despite his advanced years, He moved with grace and purpose, his elegant charcoal suit and blue-tinted glasses giving him an air of thoughtful authority. "Life's due short to play small with your talents," he began, his voice resonating through the room of thousands. "You were born into the opportunity as well as the responsibility to become legendary." As he spoke, his words seemed to touch something deep within each listener. You have it in you to reclaim sovereignty over your primal greatness in a civilization that has become fairly uncivilized, to restore your nobility in a global community where the majority shops for nice shoes and acquires expensive things yet rarely invests in a better self. The audience hung on every word, many nodding in recognition of truths they'd felt but never articulated. The spellbinder continued, his passion building. The great women and men of the world were all givers, not takers. Renounce the common delusion that those who accumulate the most win. Instead, do work that is heroic, that staggers your marketplace by the quality of its originality as well as from the helpfulness it provides. His voice grew more intense as he shared how real leadership isn't about titles but about mastery over all you do, resisting the tyranny of the ordinary and refusing to allow negativity to hijack your sense of awe. Suddenly, the spellbinder's breathing became labored. He clutched the arm of his chair, his face paling as he fought to continue. Hard is good, he managed. Real greatness and the realization of your inherent genius is meant to be a difficult sport. Only those devoted enough to go to the 5 edges of their highest limits will expand them. With these words, he collapsed to the floor, the audience gasping in shock as medical personnel rushed to his aid. In the chaos that followed, few noticed the homeless man in tattered clothes who had been sitting in the 5th row. While others panicked, he remained calm, his eyes reflecting not fear but understanding. The expensive watch on his wrist seemed strangely out of place with his disheveled appearance, a contradiction that would soon unravel into something extraordinary. The spellbinder's wisdom transcended mere motivation. It was an invitation to transformation. His words reminded us that within each person lies a dormant hero waiting to be awakened. We've been programmed to believe that greatness is reserved for the special few, when in reality, it's our birthright, one we've simply forgotten how to claim. The journey to reclaiming this inheritance isn't comfortable or easy, but as the spellbinder demonstrated even in his collapse, the pursuit of greatness demands everything we have to give. 3 unlikely allies, encounters that change everything. The entrepreneur found herself standing outside the conference center, still shaken by the spellbinder's collapse. Beside her stood the artist, a heavy man with dreadlocks and a goatee, dressed entirely in black. They'd been seated together during the event and were now processing what they'd witnessed. "Do you think he's dead?" she asked, fidgeting with her bracelets nervously. "Not sure. He's old. He fell hard. Never seen anything like it," the artist replied anxiously. Their conversation was interrupted by an unexpected voice. The homeless man they'd noticed in the audience, now approaching them with surprising confidence despite his white hair and tattered clothing. "Hi, guys," he spoke loudly, inserting himself into their conversation. The entrepreneur responded coldly, "Yes? Can I help you?" while the artist offered a more welcoming, "Hey, brother, what's up?" The homeless man sat down uninvited and began speaking about Spellbinder with unexpected eloquence and insight. "I made my fortune thanks to the teachings of the Spellbinder," he declared, shocking them both. "Most people wish for phenomenal things to happen to them. He taught me that exceptional performers make phenomenal things happen to them." The entrepreneur whispered to the artist, "Total crackpot. If he's got a fortune, I'm Mother Teresa." Yet they couldn't help noticing the enormous watch on his wrist, worth at least $100,000. As their conversation continued, the homeless man displayed knowledge that seemed impossible for someone in his position. He quoted philosophers with ease and spoke about success principles with the authority of someone who had lived them. When he mentioned having a private jet waiting, the entrepreneur and artist exchanged glances of disbelief. Yet something about his words resonated with them both, especially when he invited them to visit his oceanside compound to learn the 5 a.m. method that had transformed his life. "I'll teach you everything I know about a world-class morning ritual," he promised. "You'll learn to rise early, regularly, so you'll get more done by noon than most people get done in a week." His offer seemed absurd, yet strangely compelling. The entrepreneur, despite her skepticism, felt a flicker of hope for the first time in months. The artist, always open to new experiences, felt drawn to this eccentric figure's wisdom. Sometimes the most profound changes in our lives come through the most unlikely encounters. The universe often sends teachers disguised as strangers, wisdom wrapped in unexpected packages. What appears as chance, a random meeting after a dramatic event, can become the catalyst for transformation. The entrepreneur and artist couldn't know it yet, but their decision to trust this peculiar homeless man would initiate a journey that would revolutionize not only their mornings but their entire approach to life, success, and fulfillment. From mediocrity to mastery, breaking old patterns. "I wasn't always like this," the homeless man confessed as he led the entrepreneur and artist down a narrow path to a secluded beach the next morning. He'd convinced them to meet him at 5 a.m., promising insights that would transform their productivity and lives. To their astonishment, a Rolls-Royce had collected them, confirming their suspicion that this disheveled figure was not what he appeared to be. "Society has sold us a series of mistruths," he continued as they walked. "That pleasure is preferable to the terrifying yet majestic fact that all possibility requires hard work, regular reinvention, and a dedication as deep as the sea to leaving our harbors of safety." He stopped to draw a simple diagram in the sand, a triangle with 3 words: awareness, choices, and results. The entrepreneur studied it skeptically. "What exactly are you trying to show us?" she asked, arms crossed defensively. The homeless man, who they now suspected might be a billionaire in disguise, smiled patiently. "With better daily awareness, you can make better daily choices. With better daily choices, you'll start seeing better daily results. Most people are trapped in superficiality, vague, imprecise thinking that yields vague, imprecise results." He pointed to the word granularity he'd written beside the triangle. "Legendary achievers are vastly different. They understand that amateur levels of awareness will never lead to the highest grade of professional results. They go deep on the details others ignore." He shared a story about visiting the Formula One racing team, marveling at how they'd vacuumed the pit area after the car roared away, because even a molecule of sediment in the engine could cost them a victory or even a life. The artist nodded slowly, understanding dawning. "That's why so many of us stay mediocre. We don't sweat the fine points. We don't bring that level of rigor to our craft." The entrepreneur remained quiet, but something was shifting within her. The walls she'd built were beginning to crack. As the sun rose higher, the homeless man concluded his lesson. Most people can't stand themselves, so they can never be alone. They need to constantly be with other people to escape their feelings of self-hatred over all their wasted potential, missing the wonders and wisdom that solitude and quiet bring. Or they watch TV endlessly, not realizing it's eroding their imagination and bankrupting their bank account. The entrepreneur finally spoke, vulnerability replacing her usual cynicism. "My life feels so complicated. I feel overwhelmed. I don't have any time for myself." She shared how technology addiction had drained her concentration and energy, how her success had come at the cost of her peace of mind. This is the paradox of modern achievement. We climb ladders of success only to discover they're leaning against the wrong walls. True mastery begins not with adding more complexity but with stripping away the non-essential. It requires the courage to face ourselves in solitude, to embrace discomfort as a pathway to growth, and to pursue excellence not from ego but from a place of service. The journey from mediocrity to mastery isn't about doing more. It's about becoming more focused, more disciplined, and ultimately, more alive to the wonder that exists in each moment. 5. The 5 a.m. method. Rituals of world builders. Dawn was breaking over the ocean as the entrepreneur and artist arrived at the beach for their third 5 a.m. meeting. Despite their initial skepticism, they had returned, drawn by curiosity and the undeniable wisdom of their eccentric mentor. Today, he had promised to reveal the core of his philosophy, the 20-20-20 formula that formed the foundation of the 5 a.m. method. The way you start your day dramatically influences how it unfolds. The billionaire began, now dressed impeccably in athletic wear. Winning starts at your beginning. The first hour is when heroes are made. He pulled out a carefully drawn diagram showing how the victory hour, from 5 to 6 a.m., should be divided into 3 20-minute segments. The first 20 minutes require that you move, he explained. Doing some sweaty exercise first thing every morning will revolutionize the quality of your days. He detailed how morning exercise reduces cortisol, the fear hormone highest in the morning, while releasing BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, that supercharges cognitive function. By 5:20 a.m., while your competitors are counting sheep, you are already amped to lead your field. For the second 20-minute pocket, from 5:20 to 5:40 a.m., he instructed them to reflect. This is when you reconnect with your highest self, he said, handing them each luxurious leather journals. Write in your daily diaries. Process your frustrations and disappointments. Set your intentions for the day ahead. In a world of constant noise, this tranquility will become your competitive advantage. The final 20 minutes, from 5:40 to 6 a.m., were dedicated to growth. This is when you deepen your knowledge and improve your skills, the billionaire explained. Read books that expand your mindset. Listen to podcasts that enhance your expertise. Study the habits of masters in your field. The leader who learns the most wins. The entrepreneur, who had been taking meticulous notes, looked up. But what if I can't fall asleep early enough to make this sustainable? What if I am just not a morning person? The billionaire smiled knowingly. That brings me to the most important part, installing the habit properly. He explained that all change follows a predictable pattern. Hard at first, destruction phase, messy in the middle, installation phase, and gorgeous at the end, integration phase. It takes approximately 66 days for a new habit to reach what scientists call the automaticity point, where it becomes easier to perform the routine than not to. During this time, your brain is literally being rewired through neuroplasticity. As the session concluded, the billionaire grew serious. Remember, the odds at the 95% waste, the top 5% treasure. 5 a.m. is a time of least distraction, highest human glory, and greatest peace. What you do with this hour is what separates you from the crowd. It's not about rising early. It's about rising to become the person you are capable of becoming. The 5 a.m. method isn't merely a schedule adjustment. It's a philosophy of intentional living. By claiming the day's first hour for self-development rather than reacting to the world's demands, we shift from living by default to living by design. This simple yet profound shift in how we approach our mornings creates a foundation for excellence that ripples through every aspect of our lives, transforming not just what we accomplish but who we become in the process. 6. Trials, triumphs, and the twin cycles of growth. The helicopter cut through the morning mist as it approached the private vineyard in South Africa. Inside, the entrepreneur and artist, now married, sat beside their mentor, the billionaire. 5 months had passed since it first joined the 5 a.m. club, and the transformation in both was remarkable. The entrepreneur had negotiated a resolution with her investors and was more productive than ever. The artist had overcome his procrastination and was creating his best work. Both radiated a newfound confidence and calm. Today's lesson is perhaps the most important. The billionaire announced as they landed among the vines. It's about sustainability, how to maintain peak performance without burning out. He led them to a clearing where he drew a diagram in the rich soil, two interlocking cycles labeled HEC, High Excellence Cycle, and DRC, Deep Refueling Cycle. What makes the great ones great isn't just their ability to perform at elite levels, he explained. It's their mastery of oscillation, alternating between periods of intense focus and periods of deep recovery. He pointed to the soil. Any farmer will tell you about the fallow season. Before it, there's an intense period of tilling, planting, and harvesting. Then comes a season of rest. It seems like nothing's happening, but it's in this fallow season that the soil regenerates. The entrepreneur nodded in recognition. I've always felt guilty when I'm not working, like I'm wasting time. The billionaire smiled knowingly. That's exactly the mindset that leads to burnout. When scientists studied Russian weightlifters, they discovered their secret wasn't just how hard they trained, it was their work-rest ratios. Growth happens in the recovery phase, not the performance phase. He explained how muscles grow not during exercise but during rest, when microtears repair themselves stronger than before. The same principle applies to your creativity, productivity, and leadership. Push your talents hard, then allow for deep refueling. It's like your heartbeat, a rhythm, a pulse. As they walked through rows of sun-dappled vines, the billionaire shared stories of Einstein sailing, Aristotle walking, and Steve Wozniak playing polo. All great geniuses loved to play. They understood that having fun isn't a waste, it's essential. It offers space for the incubation of ideas that will make you a fortune. The artist, who had been quietly listening, suddenly understood. That's why I've been more creative lately. Before, I'd work until exhaustion, then wonder why I felt blocked. Now I alternate focus creation with complete disconnection, and my best ideas come during those breaks. The billionaire nodded approvingly. Take at least 2 full days off each week. No technology. Zero device days is what we call them. And every quarter, take even more time off. For decades I've taken June, July, and August to vacation. I sail, bike, read, swim, and during these renewal cycles, I do my best thinking and get my best insights. He paused, looking out over the vineyard. Heaven on earth isn't some mystical place. It's a state anyone can create when they balance being successful with being soulful. When you follow your joy as a GPS, trust what makes you feel happy, and spend time in nature, reconnecting to wonder, magic happens. Life's greatest paradox is that our highest productivity comes not from relentless action but from the rhythm of engagement and release. Like the natural world that moves through seasons of abundance and rest, human creativity and performance flourish when we honor our need for renewal. True mastery isn't found in perpetual motion but in the wisdom to know when to advance and when to retreat, creating a sustainable cycle that allows us to perform at our peak not just for a season, but for a lifetime. 7. Legacy and leadership. Becoming a hero in your own life. The morning air felt different on Robben Island, heavy with history and meaning. The entrepreneur, the artist, and the billionaire stood silently in Nelson Mandela's tiny cell, absorbing the stark conditions where the great leader had spent 18 years of his life. Their guide, a former political prisoner himself, spoke quietly. Mr. Mandela came into the cell as a hot-headed, angry young man. It was who he grew into here that made him the icon we all now revere. The billionaire nodded thoughtfully. All the best men and women of the world have one thing in common: extreme suffering. And each evolved into their greatness because they chose to leverage their circumstances to heal, purify, and uplift themselves. He pulled out a final diagram, a circle containing virtues like courage, forgiveness, service, and integrity. These are the qualities each of us must aspire to if we wish to become heroes for the benefit of a better society, he explained. Leadership is for everyone. Each of us must rise each morning, yes, at 5 a.m., and do everything we can to unfold our genius, develop our talents, deepen our character, and elevate our spirits. As he spoke, the entrepreneur noticed something different about their mentor. Though his words were passionate as always, his energy seemed diminished. There was a sadness in his eyes she hadn't seen before, a fragility beneath his strength. When he coughed several times, she exchanged a worried glance with her husband. "Now is your moment," the billionaire said suddenly, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. "Time for what?" the artist asked. "To start your pilgrimage to a territory called legacy," he replied. "A lot of people are tourists at this place, briefly reflecting on what they leave behind before getting distracted again. The distinguished heroes of humankind were citizens and lifetime inhabitants of this territory of legacy. It was their homeland." His voice grew softer but more intense. "Today, and this very moment, deserves your commitment to become sublimely creative, pristinely productive, decadently decent, and of service to many. Please stop postponing your mastery. No longer resist your primal power. This is your time to make your leap into the rare of the finest leaders who have ever lived." 3 months later, they received the news. Stone Riley had passed away peacefully in his sleep in Rome. He had been suffering from a rare, incurable disease which he had told no one about except his closest friend, the spellbinder. Before his death, he had liquidated his vast business empire and donated the entire amount to charity, leaving only his oceanside compound to the entrepreneur and artist. On the day of his passing, witnesses reported seeing more doves and butterflies over Rome than ever before, and a double rainbow that stretched from the Spanish Steps to the Colosseum. 5 years later, the entrepreneur had grown her company into an iconic enterprise, while the artist had become one of the most celebrated painters in his field. They had a son named Stone, and every morning, without fail, they rose at 5 a.m. to honor the legacy of the eccentric billionaire who had transformed their lives. Our greatest legacy isn't what we accumulate, but who we become and how many lives we touch along the way. True heroism isn't reserved for those who perform grand gestures on global stages. It's available to anyone who chooses to rise each day with intention, to face their fears with courage, and to serve others with compassion. The journey to becoming a hero in your own life begins with a single decision: to own your morning so you can elevate your life, and in doing so, illuminate the path for others to follow. Thank you for listening. Audiobook by Mysterious Untold Books.